Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to pull back the curtain on something we all do pretty much every single day. We hand over our personal data. But what happens next? Well, that's a secret journey most of us never get to see. Think about it. You click agree on a privacy policy. You sign up for a cool new app. Or maybe you just buy something online. Right in that moment, you're placing your trust in a brand you know. But as we're about to see, the story, it really doesn't end there. Right, because that company you trust, it turns around and relies on a whole network of other companies. It's like this hidden supply chain for your data. And that is exactly where things start to get really complicated. Okay, get ready for this number. According to Verizon's Big Data Breach Report, almost a third of all data breaches now start with a third party. And the really scary part? That number has doubled in just 2 years. So this isn't some little side issue anymore. It's quickly becoming the main event in data security. That rising number of breaches really brings us to the heart of the problem, what we can call the hidden data web. See, your information isn't just sitting safely in one company's vault. No, it's traveling through this huge, unseen network of partners and vendors. And every single one of those connections, well, it's a potential weak link. And if you think this is all just theoretical, take a look at these names. These aren't just random logos, right? We're talking about major companies that had some pretty serious data breaches recently. And the common thread connecting all of them? The problems were all traced back to a third-party vendor they were working with. It's a huge reminder that even the biggest brands are only as secure as their weakest partner. So, if the problem is this massive, sprawling, hidden web, where in the world do you start with a solution? Well, it actually starts from the inside out. You can't possibly secure your supply chain if your own house isn't in order first. Strong data protection has to be built on a rock-solid internal foundation. Gartner actually breaks this down into a pretty neat 3-stage journey. First, a company has to establish the basics. Then they maintain and grow by making everything more efficient, usually with automation. And then finally, they evolve to the point where privacy becomes a real competitive advantage. We're going to use this as our map. So what does that established phase actually look like? Well, it really just boils down to 4 key things. First up, data discovery. Pretty simple. You can't protect data if you don't even know where it is. Second, classification. That means tagging the data so you know if it's super sensitive health info or just, a first name. Third, privacy UX, giving us, the users, clear, simple controls over our own stuff. And finally, record keeping, creating that all-important audit trail of who touched what data and why. And here's the real goal of all that foundational work. Getting these basics right isn't just about checking a box for today's rules. It's about building something experts call governance agility, which is just a fancy way of saying you can adapt quickly when new rules or new tech comes along without having to tear everything down and start from scratch. Okay, so once that foundation is in place, now a company can start to look outward. It's time to build a playbook for how they're going to manage the dozens, sometimes hundreds of partners they share our data with. And this slide just perfectly illustrates the huge shift in thinking that's going on. The old way was super passive. You'd sign a contract, file it away, and basically just hope for the best. The new way, it's all about being proactive and demanding proof. It's about checking out the risks before you sign anything and making privacy a core part of how you do business, not just some problem for the legal team to deal with later. This means you've got to ask some really tough, specific questions. And the first one is fundamental. Hey, vendor, are you only using this data for the service you're providing me? Or are you secretly using my customers' data to train your own AI models or build other products? That has to be absolutely crystal clear from the start. The next question is all about speed. Under rules like GDPR, a company has only 72 hours to report a breach to the authorities once they find out about it. That clock starts ticking, and it ticks fast. They can't afford to wait around for days for a vendor to maybe get back to them. They need to know about a potential problem within hours. And this one is huge. A company has to ask its partner, what about your partners? Do they meet our standards? This is what's known as fourth-party risk. It's the idea that your security is only as strong as your vendor's vendor. You need to make sure those privacy standards are being passed all the way down the line. It all really boils down to that classic mantra, trust but verify. And I want you to remember this key line from the source material. A contract is not a control. A piece of paper isn't going to stop a hacker. Only real, provable, active security measures can do that. So how do you actually do the verifying part? Well, it's not just one thing. It's a whole mix of methods. For your most high-risk partners, you might actually go in and do your own direct audits. For others, you can rely on trusted certifications like ISO 27001. The whole point, as you can see here, is to make this a continuous cycle of checking in, not just a one-time thing you do when you sign the contract.
Okay, this brings us to the final and honestly the most exciting stage of this journey, evolving. This is where privacy stops being this defensive thing that costs money, and it actually becomes a strategic superpower, especially now, in the age of AI.
And the key that unlocks this superpower is this really fascinating group of tools called privacy-enhancing technologies, or PETs for short. To put it simply, these are technologies that let companies analyze data and find valuable insights without ever having to expose the sensitive, personal information that's inside it. Now, I know some of these sound like they're straight out of science fiction, but they are very real. Take homomorphic encryption. Imagine being able to do math on a message while it's still locked inside an encrypted box, without ever having to open the box. That's basically what it does. Or synthetic data. This lets you create a completely fake artificial dataset that has the exact same statistical patterns as the real one. So you can train an AI on the fake data, it learns everything it needs to know, but it never sees a single piece of anyone's actual personal info. It's all about separating the valuable insight from the person's identity. And this is exactly why it's so important right now. This quote from Gartner says it all. Trying to manage the risks of AI without first getting your basic data privacy in order is futile. It's just not going to work. You can't build a trustworthy, powerful AI on a shaky foundation of risky, poorly managed data. This right here, this is the ultimate prize. Using these PETs is how companies can finally have their cake and eat it too. They can unlock the incredible value hidden in huge data sets to train powerful AI models, all while keeping their promise to protect our individual privacy. It basically solves that central conflict between innovation and responsibility. So, to wrap it all up, the new equation for trust in the digital world is pretty clear. It's built on three main pillars. You need strong internal controls, you need proactive management of your entire partner network, and you supercharge it all with smart technology that lets you innovate with data safely. Which leaves us with one last question to chew on. In this incredibly complex, interconnected world of data, who is ultimately responsible for guarding your privacy? Is it just the company you originally gave your data to? Or is it a shared responsibility that spreads across their entire network and maybe even comes back to us? That's something we're all going to have to figure out in the years ahead.